So this is the Algebra Adult Ed extra credit packet that was given over the holiday break. This is part 1. So we are on question 1, where we need to order the numbers from least to greatest, and a larger negative means that it's a smaller number, so you'd start with your -6. So -6 is going to be the smallest number. Next you'd have your -3. Then you'd have -1/2. And for the other two, you know that the closest to 13 divided by 4, you know that 4 goes into 12, so you know that it's going to be over 3, just a little bit over 3. So 2 comes first, then you have your 13 over 4. It doesn't matter exactly what the 13 over 4 is, as long as you know that it's bigger than the 2. So now we've got problem 2, where it kind of does matter what those approximations are. So I'm going to try to convert some of these so that they make more sense. So obviously we know that 0.3 is going to be the greatest number because it's the only positive number, so we can put that as our greatest number. And -5 over 2, that would be -2.5. So I'm gonna write that it's -2.5. And for the square root of 5, square roots mean that a number times a number gives you the number inside the square root symbol. So we know that it's a little bigger than 2. But it's not as big as 2.5. So then for your placement, you're going to have your -5 over 2 first. So we're going to start with our -5 over 2. Then your negative square root of 5. Then the only other remaining negative is the -1/3. Then last you have your -0.3. So now we've got problem 3, where we need to write an expression using exponents, and the power is the small number, it's the exponent. So 8 to the 3rd power is 8 is your base, 3 is your exponent. That one's fairly straightforward. Now we've got problem 4, where we actually have to evaluate the powers, and the base is the number that you multiply, and the exponent tells you how many times to multiply it. So 4 to the 3rd power means we're doing 4 times 4 times 4. So we know that 4 times 4 is 16, times 4 is 64. Now we're on to problem 5, where we have to evaluate another expression, and in these ones it's helpful to remember the order of operations, or PEMDAS, which I'm going to write as a reminder. On this one, we don't have any parentheses. We don't have any exponents, so now we're going to go multiplication and division left to right. So I'm going to rewrite each step. We've got 24 minus 8 times 12, which is 96, divided by 4. Now we do the 96 divided by 4, so 24 minus 96 divided by 4 happens to be 24. Then you get 0 for your answer for number 5. So we are on page 2 now of the extra credit packet for Adult Ed Algebra. And number 6 is fairly straightforward. They're just asking us to evaluate, means to give an answer. So if x is 7, then you'd have 7 minus 12, which is -5 for your answer. And in the next one, you're putting -4 in for x and 9 in for y. So I would rewrite the problem first. And it looks like I would have -4 plus 9 on the top, and -4 minus 9 on the bottom. So you do the top and bottom separately. -4 plus 9 is 5, and -4 minus 9 is -13. And that's going to be your final answer because there's no way to reduce that. Problem 8, we're simplifying, so that means that we're not going to get a number answer. We're not evaluating, we're just simplifying and putting numbers together and letters together. So we would have to distribute the 12 to both these terms. We would get 12n minus 36. And then on the right, you're going to distribute the 4 to both terms. So you have a positive 4n and a -52. Now you're going to combine like terms. You have a 12n and a plus 4n for 16n. Then you have a -36 and a -52 for a 88. And the important thing in these problems is to always keep the sign that's in front of the number. So that's why your 36 is negative, because there's a minus in front of it, and your 4n is positive because there is a plus in front of it. Next we have problem 9, where we are still simplifying. So I have, I'm going to use different colors for this, I have a 4x, and I have a negative 9x, and sometimes it's helpful to use the boxes so that you can be sure to group the symbols with the terms. So the result of that, 4x minus 9x, is negative 5x. And then I've got my y's. I have a negative 2y and a positive 1y for a total of negative 1y. And that's your final answer for number 9. So next we're solving, so we're going to get an answer out of these. Again, we need to distribute. We're multiplying the number in front by everything inside. So 2 times x for 2x, 2 times 6 for 12. And on the right, negative 2 times x for negative 2x, and negative 2 times negative 4 for a positive 8. And it's your choice whether you want to move the numbers or the letters first. I always like to move my letters first. So I'm going to add 2x to both sides. And again, it doesn't matter if you keep your letters on the left or on the right, your answer is going to be the same. So those cancel. 2x plus 2x makes 4x. So you're left with 4x plus 12 equals 8. Now I'm going to move my numbers to the right-hand side by subtracting 12. I need to move over a little bit here. So now I've got, we'll go up here, 4x equals negative 4. And my final step is to divide both sides by 4, because remember that your end goal is to get x by itself. We want to find out what x equals. So negative 4 divided by 4 is negative 1. For your answer. Now I've got 11, which is similar. When you distribute the negative sign, it's like multiplying everything inside by a negative 1, and all it's going to do is it's going to change the sign of each thing inside. So a negative times an x is a negative x, and a negative times a positive we know is a negative, so we've got negative 2. Then we have minus 2x. Now we can distribute our negative 2. We have negative 2x. And negative 2 times 1 for negative 2. So before I start moving things, I'm going to combine like terms on the same side, and I notice that on the left I have a negative 1x and a negative 2x for a negative 3x. So things are starting to look better, and it's looking pretty similar to the last problem. I'm going to move my x's to the left-hand side. So now I've got negative 1x minus 2 equals negative 2. Now I'm going to move my numbers to the right-hand side, and something interesting is going to happen. We have cancel out on the left, and on the right-hand side we have negative 2 plus 2, which is 0. So we end up with negative 1x equals 0, and two choices here. We know that 0 divided by any number in the world is still going to be 0, so you could see at this step that your answer is going to be 0. Or you could show the work. Show the division by negative 1, and you still get 0 for your answer for that problem.